Let me start with something that might surprise you. Every now and then, a political moment comes along that's so revealing, it stops being news, and becomes a kind of stress test for the entire system. And, over the last few days, two things happened almost at the exact same time that did exactly that. First, a major media outlet tried floating a vague, unprovable rumor about removing an FBI director, only for the story to collapse publicly within hours. And then J.D. Vance, of all people, delivered one of the bluntest warnings yet about what's actually happening inside the country. Fraud, corruption, domestic failures, and misplaced political priorities. If you connect those two threads, you get a picture that's much bigger. A picture that shows why trust in the media is collapsing, why voters are frustrated, and why political insiders panicked the moment Trump exposed how flimsy that latest anonymous source's narrative really was. Today, I want to walk you through that picture clearly and calmly, because once you see how these events link together, the last week in American politics will make a whole lot more sense. Here's what happened. A cable news network ran a breaking story claiming President Trump was considering removing Cash Patel as FBI director. The report cited 3 unnamed sources with knowledge of the situation. On the surface, it sounded official. Multiple sources, inside knowledge, dramatic headline. But the language they used was intentionally vague. They didn't say Trump would remove Patel. They didn't say Patel was being fired. They said Trump was considering it. They said he may remove him. They said the White House was dealing with unflattering headlines. This kind of language is crafted to create a headline without taking responsibility for the claim. It's speculative. It's conditional. It allows a network to run a dramatic story while leaving enough wiggle room to escape blame when it turns out to be wrong. This strategy isn't new. Media outlets have used it for years. Phrase something as a possibility, let it spread across social media and cable panels, and by the time anyone checks the facts, the narrative has already taken hold. Except this time, the story didn't survive even a single news cycle. Within hours, President Trump, while on Air Force One, was asked directly, "Are you planning to replace Cash Patel as FBI director?" His answer was immediate, "No, he's doing a good job." Then the White House released a photo of Trump and Patel in the Oval Office, along with a press secretary's statement calling the report fake news. That quick collapse exposed something bigger, how fragile these narratives are when built on speculation and anonymous sources. For people watching from home, this is exhausting. You turn on the news expecting clarity. Instead, you get conflicting stories, anonymous claims, speculative language, and then a complete reversal. Over time, this erodes trust. If the media can float a rumor that gets debunked within hours, what else are they getting wrong? What other stories are being shaped by speculation instead of facts? And while the media played games with rumors about Cash Patel, everyday Americans were dealing with real domestic problems. That's where J.D. Vance entered the conversation. Just as the Patel rumor collapsed, Vance responded to a fraud case out of Minnesota, one involving over $7 million stolen from taxpayers through Medicaid fraud. The details were outrageous. A couple ran a home health care company out of a mailbox. No office, no clinic, just a rented mailbox. From that mailbox, they billed Medicaid for millions in fake claims, charging for patients who didn't exist or never received care. They spent the money on luxury goods, designer purses, expensive cars, living large on taxpayer dollars. The jury saw the evidence and unanimously convicted them in just 4 hours. Then, something shocking happened. Judge Sarah West overturned the verdict, claiming the case relied too heavily on circumstantial evidence and that there could have been other explanations. A jury of ordinary citizens said guilty, but a single judge said no. One juror said they were stunned. The evidence was overwhelming. But it didn't matter. This is where J.D. Vance's reaction hit home. He didn't treat it as an isolated incident. He connected it to a larger pattern of failure to hold people accountable, failure to protect taxpayers, failure to focus on the problems Americans face every day. He talked about housing prices that make home ownership a distant dream, especially for young people. He talked about the health insurance system, which was supposed to fix problems, but is now collapsing under its own weight. He pointed to the $38 trillion national debt. He highlighted violence in major cities. and he underscored the shocking reality that some fraud money ends up overseas, funding extremist groups. Meanwhile, the political class is fixated on foreign conflicts and media narratives, instead of solving real problems at home. Vance's message was simple: show some passion for our own country, and millions of people agreed. Because while he was talking about real problems, the media was trying to explain why their Cash Patel story fell apart. These moments matter, not because they're dramatic, but because they signal something deeper, a growing crisis of confidence in institutions that are supposed to serve the public. When media credibility collapses, when jury verdicts get overturned, when fraud goes unpunished, when political leaders seem more invested in foreign conflicts than domestic crises, people start to feel like the system isn't working. And seniors feel this more than anyone. You've watched your savings lose value. You've dealt with rising healthcare costs. You've seen neighborhoods change. You've seen politicians promise big things while delivering very little. So when Vance stood up and said what millions were thinking, it resonated, because it felt real. And the timing right, when the media narrative collapsed, made the contrast impossible to ignore. One side, real problems affecting real people. The other side, speculative headlines built on anonymous sources. Two completely different realities colliding. And that's why this past week revealed something much larger than a single rumor or a single fraud case. It revealed a system struggling to stay credible, a media landscape losing trust, and a political class whose priorities are increasingly out of touch with the people they're supposed to serve.